Hey everyone, long time no see, and yeah, I just felt like making a video today, and I usually don't. That's why I don't make videos very often. Um, as the last time I made a video was 1 year ago, and I was meaning to make a video. I was gonna make a video, but the thing is, I'm not really the type of person that makes videos. uh, I think my first few videos were okay, but like I'm just not the type of person to talk in front of a camera or put myself on the internet. And I like YouTube. It's just it's just not for me. But anyway, I feel like I do have a lot to say and a lot of valuable stuff to talk about. As you know, I'm still learning Japanese. Well, we're gonna talk about that, but um, it's been 3 years since I started. Ajatt in particular, and like I said, I did a little bit of study before that. So you could maybe say like 3.5, but I would say around uh, 3 years. So um, this is going to be an unscripted video. I do not have any points written down. So this is going to be like a rant and like just venting my thoughts. I'm recording this in December. I'm wearing a jacket because it's fucking freezing outside. It's like -1 Celsius. I don't use Fahrenheit for you guys over in the States. I'm sorry. So that's why I'm wearing a jacket. And yeah, it's like 3 a.m. Like I said, I just felt I'm all up in my thoughts today, so I'm just gonna let it all out. Okay, and yeah, just so expect this to be a messy just video of me talking. If I miss any points that I want to add later, maybe I'll make a new video. If I feel like it, or just stick it to the end of this one. But we'll see. So let's just get started. First, I just want to briefly talk about where I left off. As you can see, I changed a little bit, appearance-wise as well. I grew my hair out, I got a beard now, but I swear I'm the same person. But anyways, in those videos, I was still only 1 year in. So yeah, I'm just gonna look back at that for a while. So yeah, 1 year ago, I don't remember what I should have watched it. I should have maybe watched the video before this, but I remember saying that I do not see myself being fluent yet at that point, and maybe it was true, but I do remember actually very shortly after making that video that I was making massive gains. Like, I can't remember obviously because it's so long ago, like how I exactly felt at that point, but I remember just being like, I was able to watch a lot of stuff already. Like, I was doing pretty difficult stuff at the time. I think I just got into Monogatari after making that video, which is like my favorite anime of all time. We can talk about that later, but it's also pretty hard. It was definitely too hard for me when I started, but I like really pushed through that at the time. And I used to watch like an episode 3 times, put it on my iPod, listen to it another 10 times, and I get it. So that made me skyrocket my ability as well. I used to watch like just like a lot of stuff that was above my level. So maybe that gave me that feeling too at the time. But I was really enjoying myself, and so I really made a lot of gains after that. I think I remember like maybe 3 months after that video, I was like, "Shit, I'm getting fluent." Like, yeah, and obviously it was like really early, and I wasn't actually good, but I could see the light. When I made that video, and like a little bit before that, I was still really in self-doubt. Um, and like, how can I say? I felt lost a little bit, because, and I see this with a lot of age editors, or whatever you want to call it these days. But I see a lot of guys who, and some people shoot me in DM as well, and they'll be like, "Hey," they'll have all these questions, but it kind of just stems down from them losing faith, and I think that happens right around the 1 year mark when I made that video maybe. But I really want to assure you guys that it's all right. I remember when I made that video that I was pretty good, but not there yet. And there's another thing I want to say about that, which is, um, I've also seen people grow, um, and they always like around 10 months, 1 year, start being like, maybe this is not for me. That's because it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like the drop on the Dunning-Kruger effect or something. But yeah, I just want to say that it's okay, and it's part of the growth, and you're probably way better than you actually think you are. And I think it's also because the thing with language and like almost everything when you're learning stuff is that you get the first 80% of, like, let's say perfect ability would be 100%. You get your first 80% like really quick, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, and then after that it's just polishing and gaining more. But it's like incremental, and it takes a lot uh, more time to get that last uh, few inches towards perfection. So that's maybe why it seems that it's so hard and that's endless. I don't know where I was going with this. It's already not going well. Anyways, I was feeling lost at the 1 year mark, but slowly after that it went all really well. And so, like I said, I don't want to go into my experience too much because I don't remember too much. But I do want to talk about what happened to me, like life-wise, and not too much about my learning experience because that's just too long ago. I can't remember. But I do remember, yeah, just I was just keeping at it, still making Anki cards, still doing everything, and just yeah, let's talk about how I my schedule at that time. Because I had a pretty set in stone schedule, which really benefited me. So really, how I went about my week was, I went to school, so which was actually I went to Japanese classes as well, which they didn't really help me because they were like beginner, lower, intermediate level, and I was always like at the beginner stage I was level ahead. Then when it got intermediate, I was already advanced, so it didn't actually help me. But I was still in a Japanese environment, so and sometimes it would help me. And so basically, I was wake up, go to school, and I'm not a morning person, so I didn't do really anything in the morning. Go to school. Um, if the class was in Japanese, I would be happy. I would also have classes not in Japanese and about other stuff, non-Japan related. But yeah, so I would finish school, and I would stay in the building to finish my Anki, make Anki cards, and do all the what you would call what was it called? Deliberate study. I would finish all of that in school, and I really liked doing this because I remember coming home that I would just be distracted all the time. You get your phone, you got your computer, you got your games, you get your everything. That you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna want to do that. So I would finish at school, and I really liked the environment. School kind of feels like you got to do something. It's like going to the gym. It's like when you're at the gym, you're not gonna just sit down. It's gonna actually work out. So I like the environment in school, and I would just finish my work there. And it would be like maybe 5 p.m. Just school would be open till like 7 or something. So I always stay at school late, and I enjoyed this. Sometimes I would just read a book or read a book and like have my laptop open. I would just keep reading, and like when I found something, I would just type in laptop real quick. And yeah, I liked sitting in the library, stuff like that. So do that, come home, watch anime, um, write down new words if I found them. If I somehow didn't do it at school, had something coming up, I would do my stuff at home, but then I would sleep. And I would do that basically the whole week from Monday to Friday. So it's a pretty steady routine. I would do my immersion iPod thing as well when I'm commuting. I wouldn't really do it in the house. I didn't really like go to the toilet or something with my iPod on, but I would watch maybe a YouTube video sometimes. And yeah, I would do that Monday to Friday, and then Friday would be my toughest day. And Friday I would like wake up at 8, go to school until 12, and like those two classes, or like three maybe, were also all Japanese, so like constantly hearing Japanese as well. Then I would make all my cards for the whole like weekend, which I only did 10 a day, which is like 30 anyways. But I would do my reps, and then I would go hop on a train for 5 hours and watch anime like 5 hours straight, and then I'd be like home at like 10 or 11, because I go to university in a different city, and I did this like me, my friends or girlfriend at the time, and then I would take a weekend off. So, I also want to say that like a lot of people were very neurotic about Ajatt and learning Japanese. There's stuff going around of you gotta ditch all your friends. You're not allowed to play video games. Do anything. And I'm not that type of person. I would burn out pretty quickly, but also I'm pretty driven and motivated. I'm the type of guy that if I find something I'm passionate about, I'll go all the way, and I would like really, just out of love for the thing I'm doing, just learn a lot. And so I have a lot of side hobbies. I've maybe too many hobbies, but I would always just enjoy learning. So I never had a problem with this schedule. But I think if I didn't take weekends off, or didn't allow myself to play the occasional video game, or watch the occasional English movie, or anything, then you would just burn out quickly. So just do what you can. This really worked well for me. It didn't really cost me any willpower. I'm also I think I'm like I said, I'm very passionate and driven, but I'm also kind of lazy always. People say you got to deliberately practice your very intricate mechanics of like a video game or a sport. I tend to not do it and just play a shit ton of games, right? Or yeah, that's why I think Ajatt also kind of fits me. But yeah, just do what you do. And okay, so enough about the advice. Let's just skip the advice till later in the video. But just more about me from the 1 year to right now. So long, 2 years. Just like talk more about me. So my journey, right? Okay, so that's what my schedule looked like at the time, and I continued this since that 1 year mark for basically another year. And another thing that really helped me is that at that school that I was going to, the Japanese school, they had exchange students from Japan, right? And they had like almost, I think 30 or something at the time, maybe 20 or 20 or 30, something around that. Maybe more close to 20. Anyways, there were a lot, and we were just like a small school actually. So it was really helpful because all the other people in my study could make Japanese friends, and there would be enough for everyone basically. So it was really helpful. And I remember before that 1 year, like my first year at that school, I would also try and make friends with the Japanese people in my school, but it would just not go well. I could talk to them, but it would be very taxing. We couldn't really talk about deep stuff, and you can't really make a friendship if you can actually just talk to a person rightly. It's like actually just fuck the language. I want to talk to you right? So if you can't do that, then it's impossible. But like shortly after making that video, maybe like 1 year, 4 or 5 months, like I started getting like really good at having conversations. I talked a little bit about that in the video as well, but especially like after making those friends, like the cool thing was like they came in after when school started again, right? And I remember just not talking to them like for a while, because like like everyone jumps on those exchange students, which I think is fine. It's because it's I understand it's exciting, but I was like waiting and just like I also never wanted to force anyone to speak English, because, or I mean Japanese, because I know that they come here to learn as well. So I never wanted to force my will on them and like start in Japanese. So I started in English. So in the beginning of the the first, like, or the next school year, my second school year, I actually didn't have Japanese friends yet, but like as soon as I like hung out with them a little bit more, like through mutual friends, and like we like spoke Japanese a few times, and because it was already that good, it kind of clicked. And I remember just like really fitting into the Japanese group at the time. So like I would hang out with those Japanese people a lot as well, like during the week. So like maybe after school we'd go to their place, like the dorm where all the exchange students lived, and like play card games with them, like do random activities, just talk or drink. That actually also really contributed to my ability, I think, because immersion doesn't have to be media. You can also just have people, and I don't know. I think it really also helped with like the little things. You know how in life, like I think for me in English as well, like there's a lot of um, household name, household what do you call that stuff in your house that I don't know the name of, and stuff like that would come up. Um, it's just fun to see Japanese people talking to each other as well, like in real life. So yeah, it really helped me as well, and they were really like super positive towards me as well. Like there's a lot of people who say like you'll never be Japanese and stuff like that. I think that's total bullshit. Because they really treated me well. They kind of they would jokingly say I'm Japanese as well. It's like I was like the only Dutch guy in the group, and like sometimes like for example we go to a restaurant and there's like other Dutch people from my school as well, and they'll be like, "Oh, with how many Japanese people are we today actually?" And they would count me in. Obviously it's as a joke, but I felt really accepted and like um, you know it was really fun. It was really motivating at the time, and so yeah, I got really good at talking, and I remember just kind of like 1 year 9 months actually when I made that video of me speaking Japanese. I thought like I remember just coming home from like the dormitory and thinking to myself like yeah I'm fucking fluent because like I just managed to hold like deep conversations and like have fun with this group of Japanese people, and like obviously at the time maybe my vocabulary wasn't good enough, but that's like I don't know, I just really felt getting just like making those massive gains. I think from that 1 year to the second year is when my ability just went like this, and then year 1 to year 2 was like I just went like really fast, really it just got really high really quickly. I thought that was really fun, and I think this was also probably my golden period of Ajatt. And so yeah, what happened afterwards? So I had that period basically in school, grinding. Every week will be almost the same schedule, really meticulously, just doing whatever I like. And there would always be dips where I have nothing to watch, and then procrastinating actually becomes easy. But because I also had that good environment, I really had a good environment. Just actually, being in this study was maybe for studying sake wasn't that good, but just because you're surrounded by Japanese all the time, it was just really motivating and just kept me into that environment. So let your environment do the work is just probably one of the best advice as well that Ajatt promotes, and I really felt it at the time. So yeah, also besides the friends, actually I have a teacher that I also have a really good relation with. Um, it's this Japanese woman that really when you talk to her, like you don't feel the teacher to like student hierarchy, even though she's Japanese. But yeah, like I remember as well, like the start of the second year, like we just started talking a lot in class because like she realized I was already better, and like the first class she would already talk to me and be like, if there's anything you can I can do for you, because like she heard I was like better than the average guy there, and so like from there I would just kind of go to class and just talk to her instead of participating, and that also really helped me Like sometimes we would talk for like an hour. So I was really, like I said, I was outputting a lot, and I also said that in my previous video, but I think it really helped me, actually. And I don't think at all that it hurt me, because I think as long as your input ratio is like a lot more than your outputting, which naturally probably will be, um, then I think you're fine, and you will realize your own mistakes. And I actually really also started to get that ability, where, like, also a little bit after 18 months, I think, where if you make a mistake, you will know. And it's like, it's not like you'll know the correct one, like the correct way to say it. Well, you'll know it's probably not right. And, this also comes just with massive input. But it's something where if you, like, you will know probably, like, you will know when you've heard it. You will know that even if you, don't recall where you heard it from, that if your brain kind of gives this like in an instant, you can probably say it. Like, it's almost like an internal skill of filtering, correct Japanese that you develop. And so, and with this, sense of what's correct, what's not, due to like being used to it. That's kind of an abstract explanation, but it really starts to click at that point. So, like, even if I was, talking to a Japanese person, I was like, I'm probably just going to say something that doesn't make sense for the sake of continuing this conversation. I would know it, and I would try to not use it again, or like try and look for it in my immersion later on. So I don't think outputting is really that dangerous, if you can actually also hold a conversation. So before 1 year, probably don't output ever. I don't think that's a good idea. So yeah, so where were we? What happened to me then? So, oh yeah. So I was doing these classes. I was doing my my usual schedule, and I remember during this time that I received a invitation, or like an email basically, from one of my teachers, and he referred me to, or he basically sent this to all the students, but he referred us to a system that is called MEXT. I think most of you know it probably. Um, it's called MEXT, and I think it's called Monbu Kagakusho in Japanese. But anyways, I got this email, and he said basically that it applies to second year students, and if you have good enough grades, and like you are qualified, they will give you a free 1 year all paid for study in Japan, and so yeah, you can apply for it basically. That's basically what he said, and I saw this, and obviously I was very interested because part of my study was an exchange, which would usually be for 6 months, but obviously it was going to be a great opportunity. So I applied, and this process took a lot of time. I remember applying in February. So yeah, school year starts in September here. So I remember applying in February, only getting the answer in August, and then actually leaving in September again. So it's complete chaos. The process took a long time, and I was doing this, during that whole year where I was studying, like grinding it out. And I had this in mind. Like I knew this was coming. Like I knew this was a thing that they like sent second year students every year. So that was also like a really big motivation for me to like keep grinding. And so when I got this mail, like I instantly, applied. Like they send you like a big book of like all these documents that you need to fill in. So I did that, send them back, and then you also like kind of need to write a motivational letter and stuff like that. And based on documents, they can already reject you, which is crazy. Which also, one of the documents is your grades. So I passed the first round, and then they asked me over for an interview, invited me over for an interview and a test. Kind of like a GLPT-like test. And so I came there, and it was like 8 other people. So I was like, wait, what? It's like, did only 8 people apply or something? I was actually aware of the document process, but yeah, there was like 8 people, and I remember looking actually at the website like a few weeks before what type of test they did. Like they had that on their website, and it was pretty much JLPT type tests. Like I never took the JLPT. I don't know anything about JLPT. I don't actually care. But I did do some JLPT like preparation, like mocking exam or something on the internet a few times. Just like a few questions, like not the whole test. And it was kind of like similar, like question, like the way they formed questions and like the type of words they would ask would be like almost in grades of JLPT, right? And then they had this test where it's like three parts. It would be like elementary Japanese, uh, intermediate, and like advanced, which I think was basically just some questions from JLPT 3, 2, and 1. So yeah, this was all held at the embassy, by the way, the embassy of Japan in the Netherlands where I live. And so I went there, and I was like, really nervous as well. Like I was like taking this really seriously, and I remember, I told all my Japanese friends, and like I actually sucked at Keigo before this, which is also a really fun story. That like when I made that 1 year video, one of you OGs would remember that I said I sucked at Keigo, and I really tried to cover this weakness a lot. I worked on Keigo a lot, and all my Japanese friends, they all wanted me to go as well. So like they really helped me, and I would even like talk polite to them. Like before this, also, I would talk impolite to teachers, which is complete bullshit, and stupid. You should never do that. But I couldn't talk in any other way, right? So I was like, I remember at some point thinking like, I can't go on like this, right? So like hardcore, I would just go hardcore on polite Japanese, and just not only like Keigo, you know how you have like different levels, like there's everyday polite, and then there's like business level polite, and I would like try to practice both, like really listen for it in my immersion. And, like my friends would all help me. Sorry about that, and they would like purposely talk like polite Japanese to me. Like we would practice like mensetsu, like how do you call that? Like job interviews, like the way they would do job interviews for their shushoku katsudo, like job hunting in Japan. Like they would like explain their ways, to me. It's like we took this like really seriously. And I remember going there, like all these 8 guys. Well, I was one of them. So like all these other 7 guys, they were all like jackasses. It's actually just like so funny. Like I didn't notice at first because like you go into this embassy, you kind of are welcomed alone, and you all go into this exam room. And so like writing the test, right? I like done like I was like I finished first. Or, like I was finished. How do you say this? I was the first one to finish, and I remember just looking up like almost for like 20 minutes, like people all making the test, and then one of the guys, like when we walked out, he was like, "Yo, I saw this word. What the fuck is a niwatori?" Right? I was just laughing, and they were all just making jokes as well. It's like these guys are not taking it seriously. And so after that, we had the interview, which went okay. Didn't they said they would do it only in Japanese, but they actually ended up asking me some English questions as well, because there was a Dutch guy who didn't speak Japanese apparently, and he also asked questions. And so it was like a room of like 2 Japanese people and like 1 other guy. And then they asked me all the questions that we actually prepared for, which was just a miracle. So all the questions that my Japanese friends asked me beforehand, like why would we give you this, like why are you studying Japanese or something, like just basic questions, and like all the answers I already had in my head, I just like perfectly articulated and stuff, and it went really well, and I ended up getting the scholarship, and then I would leave in September, right? And yeah, so I was getting pretty good at Japanese. I remember I basically left at the 2-year mark. And actually that summer as well, I had a Japanese friend who I talked to like for a long time online come over to the Netherlands, and like for a week we would hang out as well. I would show her around the Netherlands, and I remember talking to her a lot as well. And so I really started to already kind of feel fluent, definitely in my speaking ability. just having conversations and you know, just hang out in Japanese would almost go like flawlessly. And I would say my reading ability and my um, vocabulary, like understanding, wasn't like where it is now at all, obviously. But it was getting pretty good. Like I was getting maybe basic fluent already. And yeah, so when I left in that September, I remember it was also just a really strange personal experience, but I basically worked for this like moment like for 2 years straight, right? And this August, right, I was in summer vacation. I was just staying at home again. I like, got the good news basically. I was really happy for a while, and then I was like really sad for a good while as well. I would leave on September 2nd, and my birthday was actually on September 4th. So I would turn 20 basically when I landed in Japan. And so this always happens to me. I remember first going to college on my 18th birthday. Just the way like school years started. I would always like start a new chapter in life. But this was really daunting for me because I never left the country without my parents. I lived away from my parents, which is not the same. I can go back every weekend, which I did. Um, it was just really scary, and it was also like how my family treated it, and like other people in my town or something. Like I live in a really small town, right? So I just go to the supermarket and like everyone would be like, "Hey, you're the guy who goes to Japan, right? Well, good going or something, like congratulations or whatever." And like I just felt like everyone around me was like saying goodbye to me, and I just feel like some part of me dying or something, right? It's like, what the fuck am I doing actually? I'm just going to a completely different country, like for what actually? And that's when it kind of really started to hit me. It's like what I did, but I didn't really have regrets yet or anything. But the anxiety level started going through the roof at that point. And so I went, right. So September 2nd, I hop on a plane. I was going to Japan, and that was it was an alright flight. I had an alright flight. I landed. Actually met up with the girl I talked to online, and I went to Tokyo. Right. I was going to the school in Tokyo. I remember writing on my paper, on my documents that I had to fill in for the scholarship application. I remember writing 3 schools in Tokyo because I thought I wanted to go to Tokyo. Which, looking back, I should have probably not gone to Tokyo, because all of my friends that I made in school, like the friend group of like 7 people or something. My the buddy. We had like a buddy system in school where you guide one person around. He wasn't from Tokyo, so I had almost no one in Tokyo that I actually hung out with, except this girl online, right? That came to the Netherlands once. But she helped me, get from the airport to my apartment, my other like Japanese university dorm. So I ended up going to Keio, which is actually one of the higher regarded schools there, and I obviously intentionally chose it because of that. And yeah, so I had my birthday there, and it was all going pretty all right until I had a fight with this girl, which I don't want to go into detail about. But after that, I was pretty lonely in Japan, and I actually almost did not end up making friends, which is also for a reason that I'm not a very social person. I'm trying to work on this, but it's just not going well for me. And I really tried actually. It's not like I never talked to anyone in school, but this school is also just really big, and my home university in the Netherlands is just a really good place for a exchange student to go, especially if it's a Japanese exchange students, because we're all studying Japanese and we all want to learn about you and we all want to be your friend, right? So that's amazing. But the university I went to, people don't really care about English. They don't really care that you're a foreigner, and if you go talk to them, well, they talk back to you. And I had some fun conversations, but they have their own friends. It's not like it's like, who's this guy? We're gonna put him into our friend group. It doesn't work that way, right? Um, see a lot of YouTube videos of just guys, talking on the campus and be like, instead of making friends like a pickup, it's like pickup, you gotta be. I'm not a pickup artist, and I don't think making friends work that way. The only time I ever made friends is when you're in like the same boat basically, like you just meet a lot on occasion, and not because you're forcing it on something. So yeah, it was really hard to make friends, and I think this partly because of the university I went to, partly because I ended up not having people there already. And also, I was really in this stubborn mentality still where I didn't want to, hang out with other exchange students, like other foreigners. Which is stupid if I think about it now, but, at the time I was like, I'm just going to boot camp and get a lot better Japanese, even more, right? So that's why I did that. But, like, after 3 months, I already realized this is not, like, a viable strategy. And so I ended up just making friends with, all the foreign people in my dorm. And hang out with them. And a lot of them actually didn't stay for that long, so didn't get to keep those friends. But I had some fun experience in Japan, which I can maybe talk about later. But it was pretty lonely, and I pretty overall pretty challenging experience. I remember the first 3 months just being really tough because I had to settle and get used to the environment, like the scale of how different Japan is already pretty daunting. Like like everything is different, like compared to my country as well. And so not only that, but like this school, like they didn't help me for shit. Like um, the reason why we have this buddy system is because like you can help your exchange student um, with all the paperwork, with all the questions they might have, and just showing them around, like, oh, this is a nice grocery store we can go to. This is where you can go to a gym or a club or whatever. And, making them feel at home. But they didn't have this at Keio. They had a program which they call like Tomodachi program or whatever, where you get matched in a group. It's like you're in a group of like 5 people and 2 Japanese people, 3, and like you hang out once a month or something, like once every 2 weeks or something. So yeah, it's just they didn't help me for shit. Like the scholarship that I got, like they send me emails on like how to do stuff. So I had to like go to the I don't know how they call this in English, but kuyakusho is called in Japanese, which is municipal. I don't even know. I'm not gonna pronounce the word. I don't know how to say it, but city hall, city office. I don't know, something like that. You have to register your address. Get a health insurance because it's like mandatory. And you need to what else? Get a phone, like number or whatever. Just all this registration stuff, like make a bank account, and obviously like I knew Japanese, and if I didn't, I would be fucked. But yeah, doing this actually in Japanese wasn't hard. I had no trouble. They just like as soon as I started talking, like they knew or something. Like a lot of people also complain that if you go to Japan, like try to order in Japanese, they respond in English. In my opinion, that's because you're stuck. Honestly, I never had that experience. So yeah, I just went to the bank, started talking, and they gave me all the Japanese forms, and it was smooth sailing. But it was pretty draining for me because I had to do this in like 2 weeks, and I had the existential crisis going on and all that bullshit. And I didn't want to deal with this on my own, so it was really challenging at first, especially because I didn't know shit about Japanese systems and how they worked. You live in a country so long, and you know everything in your own country, but they do it all differently. And in Japan, and I remember thinking that like the way they did things, I'd be like the banking system. Don't even get me started on that one. The fact that getting money out of your ATM costs money. The fact that they all use cash still, and like just like I got denied for like a credit card as well in Japan, so I couldn't even have a credit card. I lived off cash basically the whole year and my Dutch bank account. So yeah, I didn't like the systems. So I'd be like, fucking Japan is stupid. And yeah, I was kind of, going through this challenging phase where, I worked for this so long, but didn't actually panning out how I was, thinking it would. And I was like thinking, it would be like my school where I was, going to have a lot of Japanese friends and live my best life, but it didn't end up, working out that way. And at this point, I also kind of quit doing Anki. I quit doing Anki, and I kind of quit trying to get so good, because I was like, what for, And I was still in Japan, I was still reading books, I was still reading manga, I was still just enjoying the culture, obviously. Even though I was alone and I lived in fucking Tokyo, I would go out, go to Akihabara, do all the otaku shit that we're all fond of, I would try to find cool places online, like, communities that I could join, where I could just try to get, make friends, but it didn't really work out anyways. I also tried to join a club at school, but this is, if you ever go to Keio and you watch this video, um, if you go to the Hiyoshi campus, I congratulate you. I didn't go to Hiyoshi campus, which is where all the clubs were located. I went to a different campus, which they didn't have any clubs at, and the clubs were like 1 hour away. So I'd be finished school, and going there would take me an hour, so I'd be late, and then they would be finished by the time I'm there or something. Not like 10 to 20 minutes, but wouldn't be worth it. And I actually did this for a while. I found a club that was operating a little later. I'm a big fan of chess, and like I was like, maybe you can find a club and join that. So joined it, but they were cool. There were a lot of funny, cool people, but they were kind of not the type of people that I should expect this, but they were nerds. I'm a nerd too, but they were a little too nerdy for my liking. So I kind of stopped going to that club as well. Um, I wanted to join a different club, but that was, it started already to, I don't know why I didn't join a club actually. I wanted to join the basketball club after that, but yeah, just didn't have it working out. I actually started looking for it, and also if you're a foreigner and you wanted to join a club, it was also like really hard. They had a list of foreign friendly clubs. Like who the fuck wants to go to that, right? I know not everyone's studying Japanese who went there, but they had like clubs where they like only had other foreigners and like English speaking people in that club. So like a lot of clubs are unlisted, like especially the ones I wanted to go to, right? Excuse me. So yeah, joining clubs was really hard. I tried to find a basketball club and like maybe a baseball club, but I couldn't find anything. And like by the time I found it, COVID started, and don't get me started on that one because like the last 6 months of my stay in Japan, COVID happened. So yeah, we could go in detail, but I didn't really have the best experience. Um, few things that were awesome was the fact that I still had those Japanese friends, right, in Japan. So I traveled Japan, a few times and hung out with them. Some people came to Tokyo, just for me. I had a friend that lived in Matsumoto who also was on exchange at the time, a Dutch friend. We would hang out. I would go there. I would go to my other friend in Nagano City. I would go, to Kyushu actually, with the friend from Nagano and another guy from Kyoto. We would like meet up in Kyushu and like travel around the island for 10 days. We did this in February, right before COVID started, and that was one of the best experiences of my life. That trip was like a lot of fun. We just, 3 guys. We were renting a car and just drove around the whole island, the whole Kyushu island. Like we like whichever major city, and yeah, we took 10 days and like slept at a different city every time. I just saw a lot of things, and it was good to get away from Tokyo. I like Tokyo, but if you're gonna live there long term and you're not a city person, like you're not from a city originally, maybe I don't really recommend living there. Like I said, love Tokyo. There's a lot of shit to do. There's pretty much anything, like any type of shop, organization, community. nightlife, anything you can imagine, you can find it in Tokyo. But it comes at the expense of quality of life, in my opinion. Now, everything is convenient, don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's just so many people, and everyone's kind of cold. Japanese people tend to say this as well, that Tokyo people are pretty cold. Everyone's just kind of minding their business, and I think this is just the effect of having too many people. You just kind of want to be alone in your own space, so people aren't really. I probably never had a stranger talk to me ever in Tokyo. Excluding fucking Halloween or Shibuya Halloween or something like that. But like when I was out drinking or something, which I did a few times with those other foreign exchange students um, from the West or something, right? Which was fun. I did have a lot of fun days, but like the overwhelming arc of just loneliness and like um, bad time I had in Japan, which was not good. And so, like I said, I love Japan still, but that time I just really started rethinking my life. Like, I was like, what did I do? Right? I studied Japanese for 2 years, and like, this is what I get. Like, do I still want to live here? Like, what does my career look like if I, you know, maybe actually want to live in the Netherlands, right? Because I just kind of naively just took in this idea that mastering Japanese was like the goal of life, or like, and like I said, I don't regret learning it. It was like I had a blast. It was like my golden time. Like I said, that period where I really grinded it. But you kind of restart thinking, your decisions, like you know, and this is really hard to talk about actually to people, and um, for them to understand, especially if they never been to Japan and never lived there, or even if they actually live there but don't know the language. Um, it's just kind of hard to talk about, I think, because how do I say this? Like, there's already an ongoing stigma on the internet about weeaboos, um, being those people that want to move to Japan and love everything about it. And we are kind of weeaboos. If you're doing Ajatt, you're probably just a nerd who likes anime. But I don't even know what weeaboo means at this point. But talking about this to other foreigners, like you're just opening yourself up for some criticism, and most of these people don't know what they're talking about. Honestly, they don't know what they're talking about. I doubt anyone at my school, learned Japanese to the same degree as me, right? So talking to them and they wouldn't understand, right? So there's only like a select few people who kind of understand the struggle of like, you dedicating your life to something, and which in this case is Japan, which is like probably just, you liking Japan is already controversial on the internet, so yeah, it was hard to talk to other people as well, and yeah, I had people I kept in contact with all the time, from the Netherlands on the phone, and I still appreciated the fact that I was in Japan. Like right now, still even after this bad experience, if I watch online videos like of people going to Japan, like I still just kind of like, ah, yeah, I miss Japan. Like the energy of you know the vibe that it has, I still miss. Um, I still love the language. Hearing the language, right? Um, reading the language and all that. And another good thing that this trip really did, I really boosted my Japanese as well. Like, even though I wasn't hardcore aging anymore, or making sentence cards and stuff like that, the amount of immersion I got was just so significant that I was going to school every day. And again, the scholarship that I got was for people who study Japanese language, right? So they sponsor you basically in the furthering your studies in Japan. But this time, I got actually pretty quality classes. Like I took a class on Japanese literature and history, and like um, there was a class on anime. So like which was actually really fucking cool. Like they had like people who actually work in the anime industry, like giving lectures and stuff. And like all these classes were given in like normal Japanese. They were like not catered to foreigners at all. So like, well, they were kind of catered to foreigners, but they weren't. The Japanese that they use is normal. It was high level basically. So that was really nice. And like I also had a few classes that were just actually about learning the language. Like we would read newspapers, we would read normal like articles, like text, which were different classes. The newspaper one and like reading, kind of uh, how do you say this in English? Opinion articles. I don't know. Ikenbun in Japanese. Anyways, we read those, and then we would what would we do again? I had one class which was like a presentation class, and that class was actually really fun. I remember we needed to choose a minimum amount of classes, and I was like, well, this presentation one is better than some of the other ones, so I chose that one. But actually ended up being probably my favorite class because what we actually did was just show up, sit in a circle, and you had to prepare like a small speech for like 5 minutes, and it could be about anything. They gave us a few topics, and the fun thing was you get to listen to all this 5 minute speeches of everyone else, and you know yeah, I think in that class, because you hear everyone talk as well, it was just a little community you had there. um, you could talk about what you wanted. You could like choose your own topic in this a greater theme that they would set up every class. So yeah, that was really fun. And what more? I think that was basically all I did. Um, yeah, so in my class as well, there was like all Chinese people, by the way. So it was also hard to make friends with them because Chinese people speak Chinese, and then they would speak to each other in Chinese. So outside of class, it was hard to talk to them. And outside of class, I would talk Japanese to them. And most those Chinese people actually were really good. Like I remember just like when I first came to Japan, like there was this Chinese girl in my dorm who also took like the highest level classes, and like I remember talking to her, and like all the other Japanese learners I've ever talked to before this person were trash. They were trash compared to this person, right? So I talked to this person. I was like, it was just a basic conversation, like, hey, like, where do you go to register this and that, and like really like the first time I met this person, I listened to them and I was like, wow, you're not making mistakes, right? Like she had a little bit of an accent, like a little bit of a Chinese accent, but her Japanese was amazing. And so all those actually most of the Chinese people in my classes were also really good. And yeah, that was kind of humbling. You're not the best person in school anymore, but also the fact that you're actually surrounded by good Japanese speakers was a lot of fun because you get to have like I said, this class about literature where you talk about some more in-depth stuff, and like you actually get to learn something right from those classes. And so yeah, the amount of input I had in Japan and just being in Japan, um, I was so fond of the fact that I could get books now. I could get books for cheap. I could get manga for cheap. So I was just hoarding a shit ton of manga and books. So I was having a blast in that regard. But yeah, I was still really lonely. So um, yeah, where do we talk about now? So we basically had the me going to Japan part. Like I said, fun parts, bad parts. Um, you know, kind of left me in a state of confusion about my future. Where I wanted to go. So let's talk about this a little more, right? Because I think there have been people in the Ajatt community who talked about this. The fact that obviously Matt talked about this. Um, there was a guy called Nick who made a few videos on this, and it's actually really funny because the Matt 3 hour video, the special, is what got me actually got me started. I knew Ajatt all before this. I knew Ajatt pretty much like in early when I was 14 or something, right? But I never actually read the site. I was just like, oh, this Katsumoto guy is cool. Okay, let's play some video games. So I wasn't really actually into learning it, but I knew about its existence. And like only after this Matt video is when I really started, right? And so it's funny that that video got me into it, where he was talking about his bad experience in Japan, and now we've come full circle, Matt. you know. So that's funny. But yeah, I just want to talk about the fact that a lot of people have talked about the fact that if you learn if you're anything like me, and you've loved, you know, you had a passion for Japanese, you've made being getting good at Japanese your life goal, you will probably hit a wall at some point, and you will probably realize that it is not as valuable as you think, right? So, and I'm still having this crisis myself. I haven't figured it out, you know, the answer to it or something. But when I was learning Japanese, I had this goal, right? I had this purpose, and this is what made my life so good, right? So I was fucking happy. I was, you know, doing my grinding, you know, getting somewhere, making gains, you know, improvement, and then at some point you get good enough, right? So you get good, you get quote unquote fluent, and which we can talk about what fluency is at my level later on. But you hit a wall where basically, if you want to get better, the only thing you'd have to do, because you know, at this point, anime and manga is pretty easy. Um, you can watch YouTube videos at 2 times speed and, you know, be half asleep and, like, you know, listen to Japanese all day. But you know, the fact of the matter is that most Japanese YouTubers suck. um, you probably don't want to watch anime all day anymore, um, because you know you don't have the added fun of, you know, making games from it anymore. And the only way you get good is like reading hard literature and like making a shit ton of Anki cards, which, you know, if you don't have a goal, it's like, why are you doing that, right? Because I already have this ability to, like, what's the point of going further, right? And you know, it kind of sucked that I had to realize this upon, you know, being in Japan and being alone. But yeah, I think it's a inevitable kind of trap that probably every age editor will fall into if you know, go that far. It's like, why are you actually learning this for, right? It's like, um, Japanese is not a competition, you know. So even if you get really good, like, you know, what are you gonna do? Show off? Like, what are you gonna do? You know, win a trophy? No. It's like, you know, like there is this fun in the pursuit of the, you know, of this greatness, but you know, no one is gonna appreciate the greatness because Japanese people exist and they're perfect, you know. So it's kind of pointless when you think about it a lot. But you know, when you're really doing it, you don't question it, you know. And even when people used to tell me this stuff, like, used to just talk about this, they would be like, you know, they wouldn't listen, obviously. Obviously, like, I didn't listen. I'd be like, you know, I know I'm different, you know. One thing I kind of disagree with is some people would say, like, would be like, you know, you're never going to be Japanese or something, like, or like the way Japanese people are would turn them off. That I never really experienced. Like, obviously, I do agree that probably I'm just this halfway thing between, you know, also Japanese and Dutch. I never felt Dutch, honestly, which is a whole different, you know, kind of worms. But um, I don't have like a clear cultural identity, right? But at this point, I think part of my cultural identity might be Japanese because, you know, I spend so much time in this culture. I understand this culture. When I hear Japanese people talk, you know, like, let's say there's like a Dutch news program, and like there's a, you know, they featured like a Japanese person talking. When I hear that person, it feels familiar. Like, I understand them. Like, I understand the culture. It's like, you know, I've been part of the groups. You know, I've lived there, so you know, you know, it's kind of part of my identity. So you don't want to throw it away either. But you know, so you're stuck. That's what it is, right? You're stuck. So at some point you're stuck unless you have an extra goal, right? If you actually want to work in Japan, you know, and you know, it's easy to say if you're still, you know, learning this outside of Japan, but you know, that's what I used to say. But you know, if you actually already are in Japan or something, right? If it's actually like relevant to your life to get even better, then it's okay, I think, to, you know, keep going. Then it's okay to, you know, study like a maniac. But I would also kind of rethink your goals. Rethink your goals. And I'm not saying this as a criticism. I'm not calling you a weeb. I just we need to open this conversation because, you know, it's you know, it's a wall you run into. Like, if you know, look at any discipline and you see, you know, people getting working really hard to, you know, towards becoming the best, you know, in like sports and whatever. Once they got the trophy, it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna get another one, another one. and then what, right? It's like, what do you do after that, right? And like, you know, if you're a professional athlete, you know, you can retire, you know, you got money, but you know, now you're just some guy who knows Japanese, and you know, like I said, it's not a competition. You're not perfect. You know, there's Japanese people, so it can be, you know, that's the fate, I think, of you know, this Ajatt community. If you get good, then you know, what are you gonna do with it? But I don't think it's bad. You know, I don't think it's a bad experience. If you learn Japanese and you get that far, you will have learned a lot. You will have learned a lot about yourself. You learn how to be disciplined and work towards something greater. You will have obviously learned another language, learn another culture, which has value in itself. You you had fun. You had fun. You had a part of your life where, like I said, having this purpose, I think, is what makes a lot of people happy. So you've had that, um, and you probably will be fine. Like this is me talking to myself right now, but you probably will be fine, even if you stop doing it, right? But it's still, you know, just such a confronting experience, and you don't want to be not prepared for it. That's what I say. And I think even actually, this is a whole different debate, or a whole different conversation. But I think even if you're just like a real big fan of anime, learning Japanese actually isn't that, like, let's say you're this type of person, right, who read like 1,000 manga series, like watches anime all day. You're like this big fan of like otaku culture. Learning Japanese, like the Asia way, will only take you like 2 years to where you can actually like experience and like really, maybe not, maybe it will actually take you 18 months at this point, at that point. So like enjoy anime in Japanese, and you know, you will still be learning at that point. Like it's not perfect, but you will be at the point where you don't need subtitles anymore. Probably after, you know, 2 years, 18 months even, you know, if you're really hardcore. But it just, learn Japanese probably is just even worth if your, you know, biggest hobby in life is otaku culture, right? Because the fact that I can, you know, appreciate anime in its original, you know, get all the original jokes, get all, you know, the cultural references, and like, you know, Monogatari, like I said, my favorite anime, that I can experience that in Japanese, felt, I really feel like grateful for the fact that I, you know, can do that. So it has value, but you know, if you think, if you don't have a career path besides Japanese, if you don't have other purpose in your life besides Japanese, you will run into a wall, I think. But enough of that conversation. We'll skip over it. Talk about something else. So another thing I want to talk about is, you know, a lot of people wondering, how good can I expect to be at 3 years, right? And I don't claim to be this perfect being right now, right? Who knows Japanese, right? I know Japanese, right? Like people make these videos online always, like of how to learn, like how to get fluent in Japanese, or like how I learned Japanese past time, right? So past tense, I mean. So I don't claim to be that. I will say I'm fluent. I can definitely say that. After 3 years, so let's talk about definition of fluency real quick. I had a pretty high expectation, right? As you can probably tell, pretty good at English, I would say. This is also because, you know, English is pretty closely related to Dutch. They're both Germanic languages. Um, I started learning English. Well, I started listening to English from a very young age. I never actually learned English. I also learned English through, or just, you know, got used to English, as I would say, through immersion. Um, and I've, you know, since probably, I remember being 11 and not speaking English, not being able to understand English. But by the time I was 14 or 13, 14, no wait, when I was 12, I started watching Naruto or something in English, and I remember the first time I watched Naruto, I probably didn't understand everything. English Naruto, right? Dubbed Naruto, and I remember being like 14. I was probably definitely fluent in English, right? And now I'm 21, so I've had a long time coming, right? Imagine agenting for, you know, 15 years or whatever. Uh, well, that's a stretch, but yeah, that's basically where I'm at. So my English is probably closer to native level than it is to fluency, right? So I don't know where we can draw the line of fluency, if this is like, 0 to 100. If fluency is like here, or where is it? I can't tell. But the thing is that you will know when you're fluent. Like, it's like, I remember just thinking to myself, like, I always ask this question, right? I think anyone would ask, am I fluent yet? Am I fluent yet? And at some point, it's like, you can't deny it anymore, right? It's like, what is there left to prove, right? You can understand this. And yes, there's imperfections, but you can have fluent conversations. You can be clever in the way you say things. You can read a book without a dictionary. You can, like I said, just listen to as fast as possible fucking podcast conversations and get everything. And yeah, at some points it's kind of undeniable, and I think that's when you're fluent, I think. And people also use the term basic fluent. I think that's more the point where I got when I was getting to Japan, and like a little bit before that, where I was having already pretty good fluent conversations, but my vocabulary was still kind of whack, and I maybe didn't understand like really technical, difficult stuff. But after a while, you will get that too. And like, obviously, if I open a Mishima book right now, and there'll be a ton of words I don't know, but that doesn't mean you can't be fluent. And like I said, it's not native level. So fluency native level, I would say it's different. I would say there's a little bit of room in between that, a lot of room actually. And but it's like at the end, it's both at the end, right? And so yeah, I definitely say I'm fluent. Obviously not native level. I'm obviously there's obviously a lot of words that I don't know that the native people know, even though like my English is this good, right? Um, I've listened to English like a lot. I think speaking English on some occasions goes better than speaking in Dutch, even though that's my native language. I still think my Dutch is better, just because the fact that I'm a native speaker, like actually being a native, like how much advantage that gives you is actually mind blowing. But like all these little words, like these little things, like these little intricacies of language in your native language, that's actually perfect most of the time, right? So, like I said, you can give me like little objects, like what do you call this, right? I wouldn't know in English, and I wouldn't know in Dutch. So that's yeah, those things will always go over your head, and even after this long, right? For me in English as well. So it's kind of funny that I actually had this experience, right, of learning another language already, so I can kind of compare it. But um, I think most Europeans have this anyway. But yeah, in English as well. Like I learn words all the time, right? So a word I learned pretty recently, which like I'm ashamed to admit, like and all native English speakers know this, but it's the word culprit, right? Um, the the culprit of something, or what's a word I learned recently as well. Um, there's a ton. Anyways, vin- vindictive is a word I learned like maybe already a few months ago. But I'm like surprised that I can find words all the time that everyone actually knew, but I didn't know, and then I would learn them like way later, and I'd be like, wow, why didn't I actually know this word, right? So a lot of things goes over your head, but those aren't required to be fluent, right? Those are required to be native level, so it's different. But you will know when you're fluent. I think. I think it's pretty clear. Like, if you keep asking yourself, "Am I fluent? Am I fluent?" At some point, you can't say no anymore. I think, which tends to be after 2.5 years or something, right? So of hardcore AJ. So um, I kind of want to talk also about some advice to people who are watching this video. I feel very humbled by the fact that a lot of people who watch my previous videos send me messages and like ask me questions on how to learn. And I always respond, unless this video is gonna have make me have a lot of questions. Probably not, but I'll probably respond to everyone. Um, but yeah. So I do have some advice and some takes, I guess, on Ajatt that maybe I disagree with, or things that work for me that people don't talk about. One thing I want to, so yeah, let's talk about things that I did differently. So first things first, subtitles, Japanese subtitles, I actually use a lot, and in my experience, I had no um, repercussions from that. So I didn't use them all the time. I think I used them 60 to 70% of the time, Japanese subtitles. If they were available on Netflix, I used them. If I downloaded anime and didn't have it, like, well, too bad, I would just watch it raw. But I use Japanese subtitles a lot. And like I said, to my experience, like, it didn't hurt me at all. So it would only help me, pick up words faster from, the thing I was watching. It would help me understand more. Um, and yes, if at the time I turned, the subtitles off, I would understand less. But it's like, if this is with subtitles and this was without, it would still be moving, right? It would still be moving. So like, if I jumped back to this now and move like this, it would be the same. In my, like, that's a bad metaphor, but like, I'm using hands anyways. But like, it's like, without subtitles, with subtitles, your progress would be like this. Yes, if you take this away, it would be the same. But it's not like you're gonna go like that and jump, forward like that. So yeah, in my experience, actually, I don't think it's a problem. Um, One of the arguments was that the fact that if your reading ability um, jumps too far ahead of your listening ability, you would have a bad accent. Now, first of all, I don't think I would still get so much listening in that I don't think my reading ability was actually that far. So even though I was reading subtitles all the time, even though I was reading my Anki cards, even though I was reading some books, and actually all my in my Ajatt career, I haven't actually read that much books. Many books. Now I'm also the fucking master of not finishing things, which a lot of Ajatters see actually as a gift, because this means that you will keep touching media, which ultimately means more quantity of immersion. So that's a good thing. But this also means that you don't finish stuff, right? So you can't really say I've finished this many books, but I've read a ton of books. I haven't finished many books. I have maybe finished under 10 books, right? So I have still a ton of books that I want to read and finish that I have all laying open, right? So, I've read a ton of manga as well. I will make a video probably about my manga collection. That's something I'm really proud of, and that I was doing the whole trip in Japan, right? I was fucking hunting manga. I was like going across all of Tokyo trying to find those manga, and yeah, so I'm gonna make a video about that. And the fact that I had a scholarship made me, made it so that I was, able to afford all of it, like send it back to the Netherlands. But anyways, so subtitles I don't think is a problem. It's gonna be controversial, but in my opinion, it hasn't hurt it. It hasn't hurt me at all. And now, like I said, people said that if you get your reading too far, you will have a bad accent, or like your listening ability will just be like crap. But like I said, I didn't read too much anyways, so my reading would always go paired with listening, like in the subtitle example, or on my Anki cards, or I would still listen to a lot. So yeah, maybe in my case, it's not a good example of why they give that advice, like for so that you don't have the result of being reading too far ahead. I probably did have periods where my reading was better. If you're a beginner, your reading will be better until like intermediate, and your reading will probably always be better, just because it's like laid down right before you. You can analyze it. You can look up words, and you can still get text. Like you can get meaning from kanji. Like text has a lot of meaning in it, right? But speech is like sound, and you have to get the meaning. You have to make meaning of it almost. So like listening will always be harder, but I still did like that much listening that it didn't matter in the end, I think. So on the argument of it lowering your accent, in my case, I probably like this is, it's gonna be a controversial take anyways, but I'm gonna just speak my mind. I think my accent is pretty good, and my accent is actually like I never had struggles with my accent, in my opinion. Like I've been complimented on my accent a lot. when I was in Japan, when I was outside of Japan, talking to Japanese people, I have asked a lot of times, like, is my intonation the way they call it in Japanese intonation, pitch accent is the way we say it in English. Is my pitch accent weird or something? And they will say no, it's fine. So I haven't studied pitch accent as excessively in Matt. So if you wanted to nitpick me, I'm sure you will find mistakes, pitch accent mistakes. But I think I have actually a pretty good grasp of it. I think for some reason, like, I think this was at that 1 year mark video. At some point, I started really like paying attention to it, like listening. I always was aware of the fact that pitch accent existed, so I always paid attention to it, kind of unconsciously maybe. But I really started to pay attention to it after a while because I wanted, to be perfect, right? So I would focus on it, but at some point, I would just like be able to hear for it. Like I would hear pitch accent like clearly. Like I would test myself, like looking it up, and I would get it correct, right? Like I said. So at that point, I was like, I can go deep into a theory, but like I said, I'm a lazy person. I'm pretty practical, I'm just gonna, just do it, guy. So I was, just listening and trying to look really hard for it. And when I was speaking, I would, try to imitate the intonation, the pitch accent as hard as possible, like the way Japanese people say it. And because I was able to hear it, I think that's why most of my pitch accents are probably correct. And that's why I think people give me compliments for accents that much. And I think if you're just good enough, like, I think I think a lot of foreigners actually that I watch, like the foreigners that I watch, like that I've seen that are really really good, they also get pitch accent. Like the Chinese people in my classes, for example, at that university, most of them would get pitch accent correct from what I hear, right? From this is my ear telling me this. Some of them didn't. Like some of them would force pitch accent. Like it's actually really funny because Chinese people hear it. Chinese people hear it, but sometimes they would force it too much on words that actually didn't sound that way. Which is like the opposite of what Western people do. They don't give best pitch accent at all. So like I said, I never studied this, but from my hearing and my experience, I think I'm pretty good at it. I think you can hear it clearly. I don't know the theory, but yeah, my accent I think is pretty good. So I don't really care getting a better accent than I have now because I never had issues with it. I have had, so this is a case that I had. So like if I never have heard a word being spoken, so let's say I learned the word through text. If I don't have like a clear like sound in my head, like the way, like if I've heard something before, I know how it sounds. Like it's already like in my memory, right? If I don't have that sound file basically in my head, I will have to guess. So I will like give my best guess. Like most Tunkanji words are heiban. Um, like just like that's the way you guess, right? So like some like 3-syllable verbs will be, I don't know, the pattern will be like this, right? So I will have to guess, but probably it's wrong, right? So I've had experiences where this is a funny experience. Like I remember playing shogi, right, Japanese chess, in the dorm room of the Japanese exchange students with a Japanese guy, and we were sitting in his room, like we were like playing each other, and somewhere in the side there were people having conversation, and I remember like playing my last move and be like, "That's checkmate," and the way you say it in Japanese is tsumi. So I still don't know if I'm saying this correct actually. I should have probably looked that up, but I remember saying it. I remember saying that's checkmate, and and the other word for there's another word tsumi which means crime, right? Or yeah, crime. And so the other person on the other side of the room would be like, "What crime?" and I was like, "No, checkmate." And so I should like no, the check is this way. And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah," because I never really hear people say, "Yo, checkmate," right? like that. So if I never heard it being spoken or just haven't heard it enough, I'll probably don't know the pitch accent. But I think I have a pretty good ear for it, and I never had problems with accent, even though I use Japanese subs, and even though I always use Japanese subs. So I think it's clearly okay. So that's one advice. Another thing is like I said, I'm pretty pragmatic and like I'm not a perfectionist. Even though I want to get as good as possible, I'm not a perfectionist in the sense where I will get neurotic about little things. So the way I handled Anki is just like words on the front and the back. Like front is the word in the sentence, on the back is the definition. Really simple. Um, like I said, as soon as you just start making gains, like it's like you know where it comes from, right? It doesn't come from me, fiddling with all these little things. It just comes from like the fundamentals, right? So I see a lot of people just being like, how does this morphman add-on work? And like I never use morphman. Cass didn't use morphman, Matt didn't use morphman to get good. So all those little things that you worry about, it don't matter, right? Focus on the fundamentals. If you're a beginner, kanji immersion, just balls to the walls with immersion. You can do grammar. I think you can pick up grammar books and whatever, but in my experience, I never learned grammar through textbooks. Um, when I really like was like at zero, I remember looking up like googling, like if I was like, what the fuck does like the word uh, what is the grammar thing? What is the grammar thing that I like? For example, like te, which the little tsu. How is that used? Like the way I think people frame grammar in Japanese is like word usage. It's just word usage. It's like some N1 grammar is just words. Like I remember going through a textbook of JLPT, and it had the word totan, which means in that moment or something, at that moment, right? So like once I saw that, I was like mita totan or something, right? And they had this ta and then totan as a grammar. It's not grammar. It's just a word, right? You can look it up in the dictionary. It's just a word. So stuff like when I was like really a beginner, like stuff like conjugations, um, yeah, just like basic grammar obviously exists, but you will pick it up anyway. And like when I was stuck on that for so long because I was too lazy to pick up a textbook, and I hate textbooks, I would just Google it and I read an explanation. Maybe I get it, maybe I didn't. But actually, in my experience, through just copious amounts of immersion, you'll get it anyway, even if it takes you a month. I remember just being like, for example, the word wake, and like, excuse me, like I just, I know that I bragged about my accent there a few seconds ago, but if I speak English all the time and then say a Japanese word, I'm still in English mode, right? So I will say it with an English, touch of English in there, English accent, because I'm trying to stay in this English accent, right? So don't nitpick my Japanese right now. Fuck you. So yeah, the word wake, right? It can be used in so many ways, and so um, uh, you have wake ni wa ikanai. You have just saying wake at the end of a word to mean like, oh, you mean this, right? Wake and then question mark. So there's a lot of ways to use a word. So I was like, I never looked it up. And someday I just after months and months of keeping the fact that I didn't know wake in my head and like looking for it in immersion, I will learn it, right? And this will happen with any grammar concept. You in my experience, you don't need a textbook. Now, if you do want it and you do read grammar explanations, that will help. It will help a little bit. But in my experience, if when I even Googled, for grammar explanations, it never stuck at that moment. You're not going to read a grammar explanation and be like, aha, I know the grammar, I can use the grammar, I will understand the grammar in every instance. That's not how it works. If you read the grammar explanation, which is in English, with English translations, you will understand it in theory, but not you won't get it in practice, right? When you actually hear it in Japanese, and you see it as a Japanese sentence, and it makes sense to you in that Japanese sentence, and the way it's used, that is when you will learn it, and that will maybe come very late, and you can let it come late. It will come. It doesn't matter. Just the fact, like think about this. Just the fact that everyone almost using Ajatt gets fluent in almost 2.5 to 3 years means that you will get it anyway, whatever you do, right? So yeah, you can use textbooks, but in my opinion, it's not necessary. You can just do kanji immersion from the start, then switch over to sentence cards, then just go monolingual as soon as possible, which, the advice Katz gave on that, which obviously was horrible. I do recommend you follow Matt's advice on how to make the monolingual transition. But there's so many people as well who are like never made the monolingual translation besides doing Ajatt for already 18 months. That's you shouldn't do that way. My opinion is do it early as possible. You can probably do it after you finish FTK and like make the only English cards that you're gonna make is you browsing through the dictionary, and then you can go monolingual. In my opinion, it's not that hard. And the point of the monolingual translation is not you understanding 100% of the dictionary. That's, I can find words and definitions that I don't know, and they'll probably continue forever. So if you look up the definition for like a plant and get a biological explanation of how a fucking plant works, which those definitions exist, that's not what you're expected to know when you're doing a monolingual translation. All you need to do is get a part of the definition that makes sense, that to where you will see this word Anki and you'll read that little bit. You can take a little bit of a definition in like one sentence of it, and if that makes sense to you, if that gives you the meaning, then that's enough. And some definitions are one sentence, so you'll be lucky. But again, in this instance as well, until you will see the word used, and it will make and at that point it makes sense to you, like intuitive sense. You have this like click. That is when you learn the word, and that will not come in Anki. That will not come at the moment you look it up. It will come when you're reading, when you're watching Japanese. Sorry, but yeah, it will come in the moment, and so you can't force understanding. It will come when it comes. And yeah, the fact that learning Japanese is so unconscious, it's actually really funny, right? So we try to force our consciousness to do something, but it's all unconscious, baby. It all happens, in the back of our head somewhere. So you shouldn't worry, right? And I know it's really hard to keep faith, and it's so hard, for people to diet as well, right? So you just have to do this thing every day. Every day you have to cut down on your calories. After you're not used to it, right? You have to work out a lot, and you will see results only 1 year down the line, right? So like it's not every day you will see results. Maybe like when I saw results of my Japanese, like it was in stages of like 1 or 2 months where I could feel like I got better again, right? And you will have plateaus sometimes, a little bit, right? I never really hit a plateau. I feel like only after like a long time, and improvement becomes harder. And same with like dieting or something, right? At some point, losing fat becomes I feel like stubborn fat, right? Becomes harder. But yeah. So having faith is hard, and the thing is, with the diet, analogy, you actually have something to look at. But even then, you won't notice it. It's like the plant, giving a plant water thing, right? The only time you noticed that it grew, sorry, the moment that you notice it grew, it's been a long time already. So this is what happens. But with Japanese, you can't actually see your growth. You have to feel it. And so yeah, there's a lot of faith that you need to have, and it's hard. I didn't have faith sometimes, but you can look at examples like me, like British Japan, like Chris, like Patrick, Nick, Ben, all the people Matt interviewed, um, anyone who learned Japanese, they will get good. Stick to it, and you will get good, right? So, like I said, you only need to lose a little bit of weight, get that little bit of muscle, get that little bit of gains, and you will feel it, and you will feel that it works, and then you just have to do it more, and that's when you can be your own guide. But yeah, having faith is difficult, but hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do. So so another advice. Let me think. You have other advice. Like I said, this is unscripted. I'm talking to from the heart right now. But yeah, actually, I had a friend that I kind of coached, which was fun. I had someone in my school who actually approached me, and through the kind of reputation that I have in school, that you know, a lot of people know I'm good at that. Um, which is like, it's actually crazy when I think about it. You know, no one asks why you get good, and then when they ask, like they try to argue with you. It's like, you know, do you want to follow my advice or not, right? Um, but you know, there's one person who actually kind of completely switched their mentality and followed all of my advice. And there's a person that I got into Ajatt. So I didn't walk around being a missionary. Like I tried that, it doesn't work, right? I always use this kind of proverb that I came up with myself, which I'm really proud of. But I said, I said, how did I say this again? The well of wisdom doesn't move, right? People come to it and throw a coin in for the wisdom, right? So if you have wisdom, don't move around. People will come to you if they really, you know, want that advice. Because if you know, just go to people and be like, hey guy, you gotta listen to me, man. You're doing it all wrong. You know, no one's gonna ever take that. Maybe they don't even want to take the advice. Maybe they don't even want to get good, right? So if you have that wisdom, man, just stay put. But anyways, yeah, man, if you're talking to such a long time, stuff gets in your throat. Anyways, um, yeah, so this one person came up to me and like I just, you know, taught her everything. And I think she's, you know, I haven't talked to her in a while, but I think she's doing all right. So yeah, I do have this experience of like, you know, looking at what worked for me, like how my journey went, and then kind of like trying to teach that to other people. So yeah, I do love giving advice, I think, because you know that's another way I can, you know, give myself value. You know, you know, I can, you know, justify the fact that I learned Japanese. But yeah, what I noticed is that just people, I think the most biggest thing that people worry about is just the little things. You know, they get neurotic about a lot of bullshit. Just stick to the fundamentals. You know, I think mastery in every skill comes from mastering the fundamentals. You know, so just work on the fundamentals. You know, um, if you want to do, you know, specific deliberate practice, then you can do that, but you can also do that later. Right now, if you're still not, you know, already a black belt, just focus on, you know, immersion, do your Anki every day, immerse enough, which a lot of people ask me, well, you know, how much did you immerse? And it's I don't know, dude. I never track my immersion. I don't think anyone should track their immersion. It just, you know, adds that, you know, neurosity, is that a word? Just the fact that you get anxious about it, right? So it doesn't work. Um, tracking, what does tracking immersion even do, right? It's like we don't know what the number is for, you know, amount of hours that you need to get fluent. You know, Cass just said 10,000, which is a number they just throw out there, which, you know, it's like we don't know, right? So what's the point of tracking? You know, we don't even know when you're there if you tracked it. So why track it, right? Um, how many hours did I do a day? Um, some hours, like I said, I used to travel on Fridays and Sundays or Mondays, depending on my schedule of school as well. And every train ride, you know, was 5 hours. So that day, including school, I would have like almost 10 hours, right? But other days, I would come home from school, maybe not even have a Japanese class a day to give me a little bit of input. Maybe watch like one or two anime episodes. You know, do my immersion, you know, in the bus, but that's it, right? So that would be like 2 hours or something, or like 3 hours, or maybe even one someday, right? So it used to just, it's, you know, on average probably like four, you know, 4, 3, or 5. I don't even know, right? So, but I do know that I was just hardcore at it, you know, not pushing myself to burnout, but just I was still putting in a lot of effort into immersion. Like I said, I had Japanese friends, I had this good environment. So I don't know how much you need to immerse, but I do. I think if you just have this mentality of I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna immerse as much as possible, that is enough. I think you don't need to track it. Um, just if you feel like you work hard enough, I think that's good enough. So and I, you know, I'm the guy that took 2 days off in the weekends, right, to spend time with friends and family and my girlfriend. So you know that time where I was going hardcore, even, you know,
I took days off, so I think you can take days off. I did still do my Anki. My Anki was fucking god. I never broke my streak, so I recommend you guys also never break your streak. But no, you don't have to be balls to the wall, 12 hours a day. Um, ditch all your friends. That's not what you need to do. Um, you know, I think the all in moderation um, type of mentality that cats goes against is just, how can I say this? If you do it every day, that's already not moderate, right? So you're already going pretty hard. So like, uh, you don't have to be uh, practicing like it's you know like I said, you don't have to do it 12 hours a day, man. It's okay. So we can go rant about it for hours, but I think there's too many people who just are crazy about how much they need to do. And from my experience, I'm not even. I did go hardcore. I think I did go hardcore. I think everyone needs a period where they go hardcore. If you go low key, you will not make gains as fast. You need to go hardcore. But what hardcore means in my eyes, it's not 12 hours a day. It's not ditching all your friends. So yeah, you can take days off um, where you're not listening at all, and that will refresh you to get back to it. And as long as you have passion, as long as you have drive, you will get there. So um, other advice, other things I want to talk about. I'm not sure. Let me if you guys can wait. I'm not cutting this video, by the way. I'm really bad at video editing. Another the reason why I don't make videos. But yeah. So yeah, we can talk about anything really. If we could just go about my experience in Japan. Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about this racism. So a lot of people, uh, if they go to Japan and they worry about racism, right? Take it from me. Uh, I'm not white nor black. I'm half white, half black. So you know, um, everywhere I go, I'm already not the majority. I'm always the minority, which is fine. But when you grow up like me in a pretty racist part of the Netherlands, I'm pretty much I came from like Mississippi, basically the equivalent of in the Netherlands. So in like a small town, and everyone's pretty much racist. I've had a lot of experiences as a kid where just get beat up, and I see it all around me. So it is nearly not of the same skill um, when you go to Japan. Obviously, that's first things first. Racism in the West is already big, right? And I think a lot of people. I don't want to fire shots, but if you have never been a minority group, if you have never experienced racism in your own country, it is a very scary idea, right? That you can go to a country and people will hate you, right? Like you might not sympathize with like how it is for like black people or something in your own country, or like whatever any other group like Asians get a racism too, but or Middle Eastern people. So it's probably a scary thought for you to if you go to a foreign country it will get racism. Well, luckily for you, I don't think it exists to any skill similar to that in Japan. So I think people over exaggerated it. I think a lot of videos where people talk about racism, it's not racism. Like come on, like people say they won't sit next to you on a train. That's BS. People sit next to me on a train. They say they will never accept you as a Japanese person. Is that racism? I mean, I'm not a Japanese person. Like I can replicate one pretty well. People will take me in as one of their group. People will talk to me, as an equal. Uh, I never had people mock me. People, being like, I don't understand your Japanese or something like. No, dude. Like, if that happens to you, you just suck. Okay, don't blame it on the fact that you can't be Japanese or something, or like Japanese people are just elitist. Like they want to be only with Japanese, like fuck you or something. That almost never happens, and those people might exist, man. Like racist people,
racists are everywhere. So but most of the time, if they have never seen a foreigner that's good at Japanese or understands their culture, that's fact. That's just their reality, right? You can break that reality. You can come in, and just act like any other Japanese person they've seen and speak as well, and they will have no other choice than to accept you, right? So it's not like it's not like I don't think many people are actively racist. Like they actively would be like have something against foreigners. I don't think they do. So no, my experience the whole year I lived there, every interaction with probably Japanese people I had was pretty positive. Granted, I did make friends. I don't contribute that to the fact that I'm a foreigner. It's just that if you are all new, um, even if an Asian face, let's say you're Chinese, you have an Asian face, people can't tell if you're Japanese or not because you're Japanese that good, right? So you're just new in Japan. You don't know anything. It's just hard making friends. Like you just come in to this new environment. So we grow up with school friends. We have friends. From high school, we have friends of friends. Like you already have this big network in your own country. So starting from zero is probably just a problem for anyone. So no, I don't think there's racism. Um, I just think that it's blown out of proportion. I think, and the funny thing is, um, the funny thing is that there's like black people talking about racism like in Japan, and as well, I think most of them are more positive about it than white people. So like most people will say that oh yeah, in Japan I feel safe, like people love me, like I've had all positive experiences. Like most of the time when I watch a video about like a black person talking about racism in Japan, that's all they say. So they're actually like more surprised that it's better there. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. And of course, there will always also be black people who always have that victim mentality. But if you're good enough at Japanese, if you understand the culture well enough, if you're basically already like a little bit of you're just a little bit Japanese man inside of you, then you will not have trouble. In my opinion, there's no racism like any other Western country, European country, American, whatever. So yeah, my experience is it's it's it, it's insignificant, and yeah, um, like I said, I'm pretty done talking already. I have stories about things that happened to me in Japan. I could do a story time, but maybe we'll leave that for another day. Yeah, knowing me, I probably will never make another video. But I just wanted to make this video, for because there's a lot of people. If you have followed me, that wonder where I'm at, how I'm doing. In conclusion, I'm gonna repeat it. I don't know what I'm gonna do in the future. I kind of quit Ajatt basically. Like Matt said in his video as well. Like I said, we come first full circle, but I also feel like going from it. I got what I wanted. I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I still love Japan. I still every time I do something in Japanese, I feel that passion still. But it's just scary, that what am I gonna do with it, and just knowing that it's probably not worth it kind of keeps me back. I do think I'm fluent, as I said. Yeah, I talked about my experience. Sorry that I don't have the exact memory of what it was, um, but I think I gave a pretty good explanation of what I was doing. Yeah, I gave a little bit of advice, and yeah, should I talk about stories right now? Do I have some fun stories I can talk about? I can talk about something, right? What happened to me that was funny while I was in Japan? So, oh yeah, my vacation was really awesome. Yeah. I'll talk about this, right? So, I remember this journey that we made across Kyushu. We came across this little village in the mountains, and if you look it up, um, it's called Unzen, I think. Let me let me try if I can find it real quick. Yeah, it's called Unzen, and we arrived there at like so we had a reservation for this hostel, or like it was like a guest house. We didn't sleep at hotels. We slept at like at someone's house basically who like offered a few rooms, or we slept at like a guest house, like a hostel type thing, where they had just like a few rooms with like shared beds or something. Like it wasn't anything luxury or something. But and you have this a lot in Japan actually. You have this yeah. So we came there at night, right? So like we were driving a lot. Obviously, we were probably more on the road than off the road in that trip. But we went all around Kyushu, and we came to Unzen, and it was like 10 at night, right? So 10 p.m. in the evening, and we had our reservation like for check-in like a lot earlier already. So we made this phone call, right? And we were like, oh, we're probably gonna get late, you know. It's probably gonna get late. Um, we're running late on schedule or whatever. And the guy on the phone was like, yeah, that's totally fine, no problem. Um, we'll be open. He was like, we'll be there. It's like, no problem. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. And so we arrived, and it was already dark, and we were there in February, which was in the winter, right? So it was snowing outside. It was in the mountains. It was like this place in the mountains. And we come there, and it's like a pretty rural. Like if you Google it, like I said, Unzen, you'll see it's pretty like small town, right? And so we come in this hostel thing, right? And we're thinking this guy just stayed up, right? So he was like, he was just nice enough to like wait for us or something, right? Because we made that phone call. But no, this guy fucking threw a party in his own lobby, right? So he apparently he had his like elementary school reunion there, and it was just like him and all his like friends from his like elementary school class or something in this hostel. And it was like really small, right? So we look through this window, we see like a party going on of like only like 40-year-olds or something. And so we go in, and like immediately they hand us like fucking alcohol, and like I got offered a beer, and like they had like sake and this like hot water thing, and this got like hot sake as well. And it was just so funny, like this is welcome, it's like that. you know and the actual like employee, right, or like the owner of this place was like sitting all like at the end of the room, and he like walked over and like tried to, he was probably drunk, but he was like trying to talk in like polite Japanese as well. That was actually really funny. But yeah, we were offered, to, we could drink with them if we wanted to. And so we were like, we went to this onsen first, because in Kyushu you have a lot of cool onsens that are, from actual hot water sources, underground. And, because you have like active volcanoes there and stuff. So, yeah, went to the onsen place. And we also met a lot of cool guys there that we would talk to. Yeah, in my experience, like the only time I had like cool conversations with strangers was outside of Tokyo. So in Kyushu, I talked to a lot of strangers, and yeah, so we drank with those people there as well. We had a lot of fun conversations as well. So that was a fun experience. Um, if you ever go to Japan for a year or for extended period of time on Halloween, go to Shibuya. That's fucking funny, because it's like an almost like a festival on the streets, right? You probably have seen videos of it, but it's really that crazy. I remember that night, me just like, the funny thing is, I had a party with my dorm, like foreign, what's it called? The other foreigners in my dorm. Like, we went to a Halloween party that was outside of Tokyo a little bit. Like, it was like an hour with a bus or something. But it was at a club, right? And it was like the Saturday before Halloween. Now, Halloween that year when I was there, it was 2019, I think. Was November, right? October. When is Halloween actually? So, yeah, October 31st, I think. It fell on a Thursday, I remember. So we went to the party on Saturday, right? And it was like a Halloween 18th party already.
And all of those people I went with that day was like, I asked them, yo, you want to go to the Shibuya on Thursday? They were like, no, some of them had school tomorrow or something, right? The following day. So I just went alone. And I remember thinking like, I just wanted to see it first of all, right? I remember thinking, damn, if I want to have fun and like actually stay here longer, because I didn't want to go back, right? And if you've ever been in Tokyo, right? If you don't leave after 12, you have to stay till 5 a.m. because the trains don't run after 12, right? So I was like, fuck, I'm gonna stay after 12, so I'm gonna have to get drunk. And so like, I just like bought this bottle of plum wine at the convenience store. I was like chugging it, and I got really drunk, and I just started talking to all the people on the street, right? Because everyone's in on the street, right? It's so busy, so you can talk to basically everyone. And like at some point, I found these two guys who were in Hunter x Hunter at cosplay, and I was like, "Yo, Hunter x Hunter, right? I fucking love this show." So we were talking about it a little bit, and then I said to them, "Yeah, I'm from I'm an exchange student and stuff, and like I'm just walking around on my own." It's like, and they were actually waiting for someone else, and they were like, "Yeah, just join us, just join us." Most people, I just got rejected like a lot of times. Everyone on the street is like girls and guys alike, right? So, but in that moment, right, they were waiting anyway, so I just could talk to them the whole time, and they were really nice and like kind of my age, right? And they also happened. One of those guys happened to be from the same school, but from the different campus, so I never got to see him again. But yeah, so we partied that night. We went to clubs, and yeah, it was kind of fun. I didn't go partying that much when I was in Tokyo, almost like 3 or 4 times maybe. But every time I went was like pretty fun. Um, yeah, I used to go to arcades a lot in Japan, but yeah, that's all for another day. A lot of stories, but yeah, those are all one-off locations. Like I said, I I'm filming with the camera. I'm sorry. I overall had a pretty depressing, challenging, lonely experience while I was in Japan. And when I got back, um, I did need to get like I had like a reverse culture shock. I need to get like recalibrated to like life here, and then like obviously I lived all my life to the point of turning 20 um, in this country, so I got back at on my feet pretty quickly. But yeah, when I came back, there was like a month or two where I felt pretty strange, still where obviously I was glad to have people around me again, be with my family again, see my friends again, but also I was really used to Japan, and it also feels like I could never kind of explain how Japan is to other people because you can't show them videos or like because you only understand Japan when you learn Japanese and like actually be there, right? So I could never kind of express this kind of Japanese part that I was building of myself, right, to people, and especially because I lived there and like no one came with me, or like nobody from the Netherlands that were my like hometown friends or something, or my family actually came to me to visit me, so I could never show them. So that was kind of weird, I had this like lonely experience in a different world that I couldn't even explain it. So yeah, but now I'm back. I do hang out with my friends again. Um, yeah, I'm seeing my family again, so it's cool. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future if I'm going to keep on learning Japanese. Um, like I said, I do still have that passion for the language. I'm repeating myself a lot, but I do still read a lot of books. I will show you my bookshelf in another video. And yeah, so I'll always keep watching anime. I'm still watching anime. I watched anime today. There's still a lot of shows I want to watch because I'm just a fan of it. Um, like I said, I never grew out of anime. A lot of people say they, grow out of it or they always hated it. My question also would be, if you don't like Japanese media, if you can't find anything to enjoy in Japanese, why are you learning Japanese? Because I think I'm sorry, I think Chinese is a cool language, but there's nothing in China or nothing in Chinese that I would particularly like to watch, right? So there's a struggle right there already, right? If you want to learn a language, the only use it has, right? It's a tool, right? That's the only use for the tool is understanding the language, which means you can, read or listen to stuff in the language. or to speak. But for that, if you're an Ajatt or immersion-based learner, you will know that you will need to listen. So it's not going to work. So yeah, but like I said, always watch and read, probably in Japanese forever. I still have friends online that I talk to on the app line. I mean, yeah, still probably want to go back. Maybe I'll finish my degree and actually find a job there. Maybe, but I'm not sure if I actually want to do that because maybe I'll get a bad experience again. Um, I'm contemplating. Yeah, so I'm contemplating my decisions right now, but that's basically where I'm at. Yeah, if you have any questions, if you want me to make a video on something, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll make, yeah, if you got any ideas, maybe I'll do it. I was thinking actually about making a video of me reading. I think that would be fun. Um, I think, it's hard to make a video of you speaking at your level because I remember making that video, right? Like at 1 year, 9 months of me speaking, but that was not my max at that point because I was nervous. Like I'm almost always nervous when I do these videos. I'm pretty relaxed right now, so because I made this video in the right time. I waited for the right moment, and so yeah. So like it's hard to really show your video, your whole like level in a video, right? And it's kind of hard to measure anyone's level. First of all, if you're not that level, like probably like the same level or better than them, you can't see their flaws anyways. So like, what's the point? Like, I'm just gonna make a video of me speaking, and you will just assume that I'm good, right? So that it doesn't matter. Um, I don't care about showing my ability that much. Like I said, I have what I got what I wanted. So what's the point of me trying to show it off? Um, Maybe it's useful for people, but I think most people, if they watch that other video of me a 1.9, right, 1 year 9 months, they would think some like probably beginners would think I'm fluent. Like if you show that video and let's say like a video of the video Matt made, like I think that video he made is obviously a lot better, but a beginner won't see the flaws, even an intermediate person, right? Only like if you're like actually good. So yeah, it doesn't matter. But I think it's fun to like show you my maybe reading ability. How much I can read in a novel, like how fast and stuff. Because that's like more, what's it called? That's more. You can it's like it's hard. I can speak English. I'm sorry. That's something you can really like get a hold of, right? You can actually see it. So, and talking isn't very high level anyways. So, like I said, you can do that probably after 18 months anyways. So, um, yeah, that's that. Um, yeah, I'm just rambling too much. So, anyways, I'm gonna end the video. It's probably a long video. Um, uh, yeah, I will upload this. I'm pretty embarrassed at making when I make videos. When I try to look back at them. So there might come a day where I'll delete it. But anyways, I made this video, guys, for you. Made this video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your questions. My Twitter is at Phantom Madman with like an underscore and a 0 on the Phantom, I think. Underscore in the middle. Phantom always 0. Anyways, I'll leave that in the description. You can follow me. I'm still active there. You can shoot me DMs if you have questions. You can, if you really want me to make a video addressing something, I'll probably do it because like I said, I love being able to help people. Yeah, that's it, and I wish you all the best, and hope you have hope you'll achieve what your goal is, and yeah, goodbye.